Hello everyone, these are going to be videos number 3, and I say videos because I'm not sure if we're going to have 2 or 3 different videos, but you can find the videos we're going to be watching under videos number 3 MLA format, which is what we're going to be discussing in these videos. You can find 2 other pieces of information. This is going to be the PowerPoint I'm going to be talking about, MLA format PowerPoint at the top, and I have another book here, MLA 9 Citations and Works Cited Guidelines, which has a lot of information about MLA format. I'm not talking about everything in MLA format, mostly just the basics. So if you have a question, this is really intensive and can help you out a lot. So I'm going to be showing this PowerPoint here. It's going to start with MLA format 9th edition. So if you've used MLA format in the past before the summer of 2021, you probably have used 8th edition. 8th edition and 9th edition are very similar. About 98% of 8th edition is in 9th edition, but there are some changes that I do want you to talk about. So 9th edition was started in the summer of 2021, and we are going to be using that until they upload the 10th edition, which they will do inevitably. So MLA means Modern Language Association and is used in the humanities, so English or art or something similar. APA is used primarily in sciences, so psychology or nursing, and they are different. I'm mostly going to be talking about MLA format in this class. If you do have a question about APA, please let me know, but we will be writing all of our papers in MLA format this semester. If you're writing an essay in MLA format, you need a format in this basic format, and so paper should be in Times New Roman and 12-point font. Everything, including the works cited citation, should be double spaced. The only exception is block quotes, which I will talk a little bit later. 1-inch margins on all sides, indent your paragraphs, and have a running header. And I can show you an example of a running header here. This is just an example essay. You should have your name at the top on the left-hand corner, your instructor's name, the class that you're taking, and the date that you're submitting that assignment. You should also have your last name and the page number as a running header on the right-hand side. A running header means that it should show it just continuously shows the page number. So 1, 2, 3, and so forth. You can do this pretty easily in Microsoft Word. So if you hit Insert and you go to page number, you go to top of page, and then usually if you do the right-hand side, it'll allow you to put that in and then do the last name there, and I just deleted the last name. So it's very similar in Google Docs. If you ever need me to show you what that looks like in Google Docs, just let me know, and I can definitely help you with that. So talking about the difference between in-text citation and works cited citations. In-text citations are short references that link to the works cited list for the sources that you use in your paper. So I got this quote directly from that PDF I was talking to you about on Canvas just a few minutes ago, and this is a direct citation of that. So I found that quote on page 9, and this is a shortened version of the book title. Okay, if you look in this example here, you'll see you're probably going to have a citation in parentheses. There are some exceptions to that. But this is the article that they found this piece of information on. So it's just Carl Sandburg, that's the title of the article. And if you scroll down all the way to the works cited citation, you will see the title of the article corresponding. So your in-text citation should have whatever piece of information starts with the works cited citation. So the works cited citation is going to have a lot more information that if it was put in the body of your essay, it would kind of bog down the essay. So we just kind of need 2 pieces of information, and those 2 pieces of information change depending on the source. So most of the time, you're going to have the author's last name, or if you have more than one author, kind of those 2 authors' last names. So if I was citing this work, it would be Allen, and then whatever page I found that piece of information on. So 315 to 331, say it's 316, I'd find that piece of information on there. If there is no author, you would start with whatever comes next, which is the article title or the book title. The articles are going to be in quotation marks, and the books are going to be in italics, and I'll talk about more of that in a minute or so. All right, so you should have all the in-text citation, works cited citations here. They should all be hanging indents. which means that the first line should not be indented, and then every other line after that should be. So I have to think of it as an opposite of a paragraph, where a paragraph, the first line is indented, but everything else isn't. So it's kind of the opposite there. All right, so your in-text citation is going to be throughout the essay, and your works cited citation is going to be at the end. Show all of the information you have. So each source that you cite in the essay should also appear in your works cited citation. Should also appear in the very first page with no writing. So say you have page 6 has one sentence or one line, you should have the works cited page on work 7 or page 7. Okay. Each source that you cite in your essay or in your prose most have a corresponding works cited citation. And you should if you do have sources that you consulted but didn't use, you can title your works cited page works cited and consulted. Okay, you can do that. You should also cite your works cited page works cited. You should not have that word in quotation marks, italics, or underline it. So some more information about works in text citations. I'm on page 6 here. And this is a change from 8th edition to 9th edition. So in most of the time, you're going to have the two pieces of information I just said. You're going to have the author's last name. Never include the author's first name in the in-text citation. It should always be their last name. And then you should also have the page number that you found that information on. So say you have a quote, you found it on page 10, you would have, and say it was John Smith was the author, you'd have Smith 10 in parentheses. However, in the past, in 8th edition of MLA format, if there were no pages, if you were looking at a website or something that just didn't have page numbers, you just wouldn't have anything. You would just have the author's last name. Now, with 9th edition, they're changing that. You always should have something. So it might be the paragraph or a chapter, a section, line, or scene. So anything down here. So if you're doing and you should use the page number if there are page numbers. However, if they're not, if you're looking at a website, you could hypothetically maybe use the paragraph. So you would do Smith, para 2. So you're doing the second paragraph. That's a major difference. That's really important in the 9th edition of MLA format. You can have in-text citations and the information in two different ways. So maybe you write the information in the actual sentence itself. So it says, according to the article Modern World being what you need the information. I'm assuming there's no article here. Globalization can be explained as, and this is the quote, okay? And then at the end here, you would also need to put para 2. I have no idea if that came from the second paragraph or not. Okay, and same thing here. Para 2. That says paragraph. So if you put the information, either the author or the article's title, in the actual sentence, you do not have to put that information, or you should not put that information in the actual in-text citation. You should only put that information, so I'm looking at Modern World as the article title, if there is not that information is not listed in the sentence. So you should have it somewhere, but you should not have it both. So you should not introduce that person or that article title in the sentence and also in the parentheses. Okay, and this is some more examples. And so if the name of the author is listed in the prose, then only the page number is needed. So it was 68 versus that same information in the in-text citation. In terms of punctuation, if you have just an in-text citation with the quotation marks, that period should go, or the punctuation should go after the parentheses. If you do not have parentheses and just the quote, that period or punctuation would go after the quotation mark there. Bring that back. I'm on slide 9 now. I said this earlier, but if no author is listed, use the work's title. Talk about that in a few minutes here. Shorten the title if it is too long. So if you have maybe studies of the piece explained, nonviolence in action, you could shorten that down to studies or studies of the piece, or studies of the piece explained. This should only happen, have a shortened title if there are no other titles that start with, that word, or you're shortening it. So if you have another article or book that's starting with the word studies, they should not have the same shortened, because your reader's not going to be able to understand the difference or which citation you're looking at. So make sure you're shortening it to something that's not going to confuse anybody. So works cited citations should all be double spaced, and this is what would be at the end of your essay. Okay, use the hanging indent, which I talked about earlier. Capitalize all major words. You should also alphabetize entries. Okay, so if I'm looking here, the first one starts with Alan, and then Carl, and then all the way down to Sandberg, which starts with an S. Okay, if you have a title of an article or book that you're citing, and they have the words like an article such as a or an, those don't count. You would start with the first word that's not an article. Okay, that's how you would alphabetize. So slides 11 and 12 are extremely important. All of this information is important. But how you would know what piece of information would appear in what order. MLA format is a little complicated because there are so many different kinds of sources that you could potentially use, and each one of those is going to come with each different piece of information. So sides 11 and 12 here are a template, and they show the order of information if it exists. Okay, so for example, the first piece of information you would have in a works cited citation would be the author. Okay, you would have it last name, comma, first name. Okay, that's the format that would be in. So Smith, comma, John. But if there was no author, you start with whatever comes next, which is the title of the source. It's either going to be an article or a book or something of that nature. You would always have a title of the source. If you have something that doesn't have a title, I'm extremely skeptical if it's credible. It should have some type of title. Okay. Then you would have a title of container. And container is a little bit confusing, but if you're looking at that book, you can find more about it on page 35. But it would be maybe if you have a chapter in a larger book. So if you have a chapter in a larger book, the title of the source would be the chapter, and the container would be the book that you got that from. Or an essay or like an article in a journal, you would be citing the article, but the container would be the journal, because you're not citing everything that has ever been published in that journal. You're only citing that one article. And so it's usually the larger work that article or chapter or essay is being cited in. So if you don't have a container, you would skip it. If you have a contributor, so that would be everybody beyond the author, so translator, editor, or somebody else, you would include them after the container. So you do not need every single piece of this information for every citation. But this is kind of how you can look and see what pieces of information are this specific source going to be using for this citation. So you go down the line in this order, and if any piece of information does not exist for that source, you skip it and move on. Okay? It should have a source. Ideally, it should also have a publisher. But it should always have a source. And so version would be usually for articles. And so if you have like a number version, you would have that there. And then for slide 12, I have the rest of here. So number, I think I might have had those. So yeah, version would be an edition of a book, or maybe a revised edition if it's that. So example like 3rd edition. Number would be the volume number, usually for articles. Publisher, so is the entity or the person the company that distributed it. So CNN or New York Times are going to be the publishers of different articles. Publication date, the most recent date the source was published. And location. So if you have a printed work, you're going to have a page number. So you might have P is for a single page, and then PP is for more than one page. And if you have a website, that's going to be a URL. And something new that is with 9th edition is now you need an HTTP or HTTPS : with 2 backslashes. If that doesn't appear in your works cited citation, if you forget that, I'm not going to think too much, because it's something it's easy to forget. A lot of this is easy to forget. But if you maybe do works cited citation on your own, and maybe you have the publisher first, you need to come back and see what comes first. What comes first is the author. The publisher doesn't come later. And so it just depends on what sources. So I'm going to stop this PowerPoint here, or this video here, and I'm going to continue starting with slide 13 on the next video.